If you've spent considerable time on the internet, you may have encountered the term spear chugger. It's a term that usually references African people, and it's hurled as an insult. The dark brilliance of the term is its layered implications. It implies the backwardness of African civilization, military systems, and the perceived unsophistication of African peoples as a whole. Today, we're going to revisit this antiquated trope so that we can advance a more proper historical lens. What up, African world? It's Somsim here, and welcome back to another video of African history, culture, and worldview. By supporting this channel on Patreon, you're helping in the creation of these videos and contributing to this content. The link to Patreon is in the description box below. Also, stay tuned with a word from my sponsors.
Have you ever wanted to learn an African language? If so, keep watching. There are many ways to connect to different African cultures. Many do it through the enjoyment of the music, the dancing, and my personal favorite, the food. But when it comes to learning the languages, that can be a bit challenging. So here we are. We here at Speak Afrique are trying to lay the groundwork to build that bridge with our new short phrases and vocabulary series. These are the seed projects to something much larger that we're building. We currently have languages such as Twi, Kikongo, Mandinka, Igbo, and many more will be added as time goes on. So, if you want to start your journey to connecting to Mama Africa, head over to Speak Afrique at iTunes or Amazon and let's start learning together. Ngiyabonga. Salami kahle.
To begin, the focus of this video will be mostly on African people below the Sahara, but I will reference one Saharan civilization. Also, the purpose of the video is to simply deconstruct a pernicious narrative, so please keep that in mind. Let's begin. Though many people would acknowledge that the spear chugger narrative is a stereotype, it still can be seen as effective. The reason being is because it isn't entirely untrue. Many Africans have used spears to defend themselves, and that reality may buttress the claim for those who've had little introduction to African civilization. However, the problem with the narrative is the omissions. African civilization and its military systems are diverse, and when you ignore that unassailable reality, you get to paint whatever image you want. Seemingly, what Spear Chugger seeks to do is to illustrate how primitive or backward African societies are. Portraying them as a butt of a joke distracts nuanced dialogue and appeals to ridicule. Any degree of sophistication within a continent is ignored for the sake of feeling superior. I think the words of Rudyard Kipling, the author of The White Man's Burden, captures the essential meaning behind the spear chugger narrative. It's the idea that black men are children in need of correction or instruction, and the chugging of the spear is the symbol behind the African's puerile attempt at civilization. Here's what Rudyard Kipling has to say. Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed. Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need. To wait in heavy harness on fluttered folk and wild, your new caught sullen peoples, half devil and half child. The spear chugger implication is multi-layered. The omission has unfortunately been reinforced through popular culture. Some of you may have seen it growing up, the patently racist depictions of spear chugger Africans boiling civilized people in a pot. The imagery, especially for me as a child, was fixed in my mind for years. The irony here is that the hurlers of the insult are victims of the imagery as well. Though it accomplishes its immediate goal, like all white supremacist lies, it fails to be sustainable in the face of the slightest cross-examination. In order for the lie to persist, you must completely ignore the diversity of African civilization. Reflexively, as mentioned before, the imagery that the spear chugger trope paints is that of unsophistication, disorganized desperation in the quelling of a threat. However, I think the documented evidence of the Portuguese in Angola demonstrates a countervailing perspective. But the disorder was apparent rather than real. For in fact, the evidence suggests that the armies of Central Africa were organized in regular units with a command structure and complex methods of sending commands to the units. Lopez provided one of the best descriptions of this from his observations in 1578 through 79. The armies were divided into various bodies, which their commanders situated on the field according to local topography, and each body had its own standards and flags. There was then a complex system of signals broadcast by drums and trumpets of various sizes, which soldiers could understand over the din of battle. Not only were the sounds of each distinctive, but each level of the command structure had larger or smaller instruments so that general orders could supersede local ones, or local ones supplement general ones. This seems quite sophisticated. One of the more salient observations of the Portuguese military in Angola was their alliance with the so-called spear chuggers. Europeans were remarkably quick to accept African tactics and organization. The Portuguese army in Angola was largely an African force under its own command structure, with Europeans simply serving as leading generals, as documented in Cadernega's detailed description of the Portuguese army that mustered Cavanga in 1646. Moreover, he believed that the Dutch could never hold on to Angola against the Portuguese unless they developed a working relationship with an African army as the Portuguese had. Scholar John Thornton affirms this tradition when he states that the art of war in Angola during the 17th century combined both European and African arms and strategies. He tells us that this was adopted by both sides of the fighting, especially during the reign of Queen Nzinga. So it begs the question, why would the Portuguese need the assistance of unsophisticated spear chuggers to combat and defeat other spear chuggers? In ancient times, the Nubians had a prodigious reputation as archers. The region of Nubia in northern Sudan today was Tasseti, meaning bowland or land of the bow. The invasions by the Arabs in Nubia, which failed to be decisive, is testament to the sophistication of Nubian military systems. Nubian archers perhaps being the best in the known world. A Himyarite elder who claims to have participated in 2 expeditions against the Nubians in the time of Amir al-As relates, "There were no warriors as brave as they are. I saw one of them asking a Muslim, in which part of your body do you want me to put my arrow? And when the Muslim shows him a certain spot, he would not miss it." Now, we don't know if this is an exaggeration or not, but that's actually not the point. It's about the reputation of the Nubians as an effective military force. Their level of discipline and expertise was clearly effective enough to defeat powerful Muslim armies. This violates popular culture's assertion of the primitive spear chugger. There are numerous examples that deeply impact the legitimacy of the spear chugger narrative. The empires of Mali, Songhai, Oyo, Congo, and Abyssinia alone clearly disprove the trope. It's important to approach the continent in delineated fashion and not assume monolithic cultural expression. I believe adopting that strategy will help in our journey toward a proper historical lens. Well, I'm all out, guys. If you like these videos and want to help in its continued production, consider supporting the home team on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself, remember your ancestors. Peace.